It's going to be a very, very intense journey.
Hello, Internet, and welcome to episode 107 of Frameskip, a video game podcast. Feels good to be back. We took a little summer hiatus last week, but we are back. We are rested. Our vocal cords are just waiting to vibrate right into your ear holes. So let's get to it. I'm your host, George. Welcome to Frameskip. If you found us, that's incredibly cool. Please let people know how they can listen to Frameskip, how they can get in on the video game goodness. Please leave a rating. Please leave a review. Please spread the good word about the good podcast, Frameskip. Now let me introduce you to my co-host. After taking a little bit of a summer break himself, we've got Elijah back in the house. Elijah, how are you doing?
I am doing great, George. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty well. You look great. You trimmed up the beard. You're looking svelte. I assume that took some time off your 40 as we head into the NFL season.
Exactly. That was the plan the whole time. Got my new AJ Brown jersey.
Eagles are going to be good this year, man. I'm so bummed.
I know. I love it. Also,
it's not,
oh no,
please.
You first.
I was going to say, it's not that I hate the Eagles. I think it's that I hate Eagles fans. You're obviously an exception. You're not like a jerk or like unnecessarily proud of your team. You know, like you acknowledge when they're crappy and then you still love them anyway, which I can respect. It's the Eagles fans on the news that I hate, which I assume it's the same thing with you and Patriots fans.
Yeah, and that's just it. It's like, I know, like you guys, they're good Patriots fans, but just in general, like the widespread known Patriots fans, just like, I can't stand them. It's like Steelers fans.
Oh man, Steelers fans! Can we just all agree Steelers fans unanimously are the worst?
Absolute worst.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
That third beautiful voice you're hearing is our other co-host. That is Austin. Austin, God, I missed you. I can almost see my reflection in your glasses through this camera, on camera and screen setup. And God, I look so beautiful in your eyes, and I know it's all your fault. Welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great, George. I'm doing even better because I feel like I am afloat on the giant Lego Titanic that is in the back of Elijah's camera. That is extraordinarily impressive. Extraordinarily impressive.
It's so big. I am terrified to pick it up. Like, I can't.
Oh, that would scare the crap out of me.
In order to put it all together, I had to put it on the floor of my room because that was the only spot big enough for me to do it.
So I know you got a pool earlier this year. Does it float? Have you tried it out?
I am not even going to attempt it. It
okay.
Almost guaranteedly does not float. I will say that.
And let's not remember, it's already sunk once on this podcast. So
that's right.
Yeah.
If it doesn't float,
let's not forget.
If it doesn't float, then it's historically accurate. Yeah.
There was a picture I was going to take, and I completely forgot. When I put it all together, I was just going to put a head of lettuce in front of it and take a picture.
Oh, like an iceberg lettuce guy.
Iceberg lettuce.
Love it.
Are you planning on doing any photo shoots with the bow of the ship with I don't know, like maybe one figure and then a figure right behind it, arms outstretched?
I was trying to think of something. I wanted to do more with it because I love it too much to not, and I just need to figure out exactly what I want to do and how to do it.
How long do you think it took you, like hour-wise, to build it?
I'm going to guess between 20 and 25 hours.
Wow.
2 weeks, multiple hours a night, almost every night.
Now, am I mistaken, or is this their largest set that they've ever released?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. I might be wrong. I could have sworn that I've seen that. It might mean like physically lengthwise, but I could have sworn I read that this was the most pieces they've ever had. But
it was 9,090.
Yeah, I'll have to dig into.
That's the biggest piece total I've ever seen.
Because I know lengthwise, I almost 100% can say it is because it's a little over 5 feet in length.
Yeah. That's like how tall Aaliyah is. Like that's amazing.
Yeah, it is massive. It's impressive, and I absolutely love it.
You know what you got to do with it to protect it is you need to build like a plexiglass case for it, and then turn that into like a coffee table. so that it's like the centerpiece of like the
Oh.
room. You can get a whole bunch of like those light blue pieces, like those little
Yeah.
tiny circular pegs,
Mhm.
and just make it look like water.
Oh,
Okay.
you just gave me an amazing idea. And I know Austin has the answer, but before we
Yes.
do that, I do it, make coffee table like you said, but have like the middle of it be the ship like up out of it, so like
Mhm.
there's stuff around on each side, and yeah, just make the actual table itself look like water.
Do it up.
Oh,
Do
I
it.
love that idea.
Okay. So our answer is it's not number 1. It is number 2. It is
Okay.
number 2. So it's very high up there. Like you said, it's yours is 9,090. The number 1 largest Lego kit ever is the world map Lego kit, which I didn't know was a thing, at 11,695 pieces, and
Well,
it's
that doesn't
literally a map.
that doesn't count though, because that's all like the circular peg pieces, right? Like,
I think so. I
yeah,
think so.
that doesn't count.
Some other big ones: the Colosseum, Millennium Falcon,
Yeah, but that's like,
AT-AT,
but the equivalent of that
Hogwarts.
is like saying you're richer than I am because I have $1 and you have 100 pennies. It's like, well, it just looks like you have more because you have 100 of something. But yeah,
Okay, yeah. Just to confirm, you are right. It is the little peg. So I'm gonna say Elijah wins by default because that's BS.
Yeah, more like actual pieces and such.
first time back in a month, and Elijah's already won the podcast. Congratulations, Elijah. We knew you could do
Yes.
it.
Thank you.
One
Also,
Legos.
we have to keep the streak alive. And I want to say I've decided on the first thing I'm doing when I get PlayStation VR 2.
Is it playing the Top Gun levels from Ace Combat?
Close.
The-
So PlayStation VR and then VR 2 will have theater mode, where it's
Mhm.
basically like sitting in front of a giant theater screen. Gonna watch Top Gun Maverick. First thing I do.
Thank you, first off, for bringing that up, keeping the streak alive.
I was gonna say it
Um,
last week too.
Second off, I'm really hoping, and I like when I say hoping, it's like really small. I'm really hoping that the Blu-ray 4K release has the IMAX format
Oh, that would be amazing.
for this movie, but I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think so either.
I don't think that's going to happen. I'm going to be really disappointed when it doesn't.
I really hope it has a 4K version of the Lady Gaga music video, because there's one scene where she's like she's wearing a dress that's like made out of parachute, and she's like standing on top of a piano, and she like crescendos part of like the bridge as like
Yeah.
a P-51. Like, I think it's Tom Cruise's actual P-51. It's like his
Yeah.
own plane that he's like flies,
Mhm.
but it's also like in the movie.
Right.
Like flies by, and she just does like stands up and just like screams, and it's like one of the most epic things I've ever seen in my entire life. And God darn it, do I hope that music video is on the 4K, because I can only watch it in 1080 like a loser so much.
It wouldn't
So-
surprise me if it is.
I'd be curious to see if this is a thing on PSVR 2, but I know on the Oculus Quest, there's a thing, I forget the exact name of it, but it's like an app where basically you can go with all your friends into like a theater and watch a movie together, and like it looks like a theater, like physically.
Yeah.
You see the chairs around you, you see the screen, and if you look over, you can see like the other people with you. So that would be awesome if that works with PSVR 2.
Oh yeah, it would.
This app is like really well known. I forget what it's called, but
Man,
I hope it's crossplay and we could just sit there all together and watch.
dude, I gotta look
Top
into
Gun.
that.
Oh
A
my
few
God.
weeks ago, I watched. I just like put a DVD in, and like my friends synced up playing, and like we just were in like PSN like a chat, and we were just like talking over the movie, and we were just like hoping we started at the same time. I completely we both have Oculuses. Like, he works at Facebook, so I completely forgot that was an option. Darn it! Next
That-
time.
That's actually something I plan on doing. If you're hearing this, it's way too late. But tomorrow night, it's my birthday night, and what I might do is just after my stream, just be like, "Hey, let's hop in my Discord and watch Prey,"
It's a great idea.
I can do
which
that.
is
Right.
my second favorite movie of this year.
What's
so
number
I'm
one?
like-
Oh, Top Gun. Duh. I'm an idiot.
Yeah, you're like, "What's number one?"
Set that
You
one up.
answered super fast, but I was going to give you the look of, "Really, George?"
Well, I was like, is it Everything Everywhere All at Once or The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent? What's his number one so far? Because right now, my number one is Top Gun Maverick. My number two is Licorice Pizza. Licorice Pizza was excellent.
I do want to see that. An Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent was pretty great.
That was a great way to spend an hour and a half. But we're nearing the 10-minute mark. This is a video game podcast. Let's talk about
tomato.
Let's talk about games, baby. Let's talk about you and me, Elijah. You dirty dog. You look like you've had busy thumbs. What have you been playing lately?
So I have and I haven't. The big thing is I've been in kind of a gaming slump lately. I've done a lot of like model building and such, but that doesn't mean I haven't been playing a lot of games because I have. I'm back and almost every night playing at least like 2 hours of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Sorry. They changed the name. PUBG Battlegrounds.
So now PUBG stands for nothing, correct?
PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
That's like DC Comics. It's like short for Detective Comics. So like when you're reading Detective Comics, you're reading Detective Comics.
Detective Comics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of PUBG again. Really enjoying my time. A new map came out, and that's kind of what had me to like, oh, I'm gonna hop in and check out the new map. And as soon as I did, it like clicked with me. A cool thing they do now is, and you can only do it in 4-person squad, or what I do is a solo squad. There is a casual mode where you can only do 3 matches in it a day, and it will be up to 12 real players and 88 bots. And that is a great place to grind for a number of trophies.
You said you can only do 3 a day?
Yes. But to give you an idea,
place for people.
Yeah. And then I come in and wreck everything. To give you an idea, at least 1 round a day, I'll end with like 15 kills, all with SMGs, because I'm going for an SMG trophy.
Wait, that's 15% of the total island. That's amazing.
Exactly.
Damn it, Austin. Elijah just won again.
I got you to do math.
Do you? No, not that. Just I assume if you get 15 kills, that's got to be like one of the higher kill counts in that game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you? And I don't mean this disrespectfully. I'm asking because this is how I feel. When you play a game like that, does it even feel like you're playing a video game? Like when I play, like when I go for like dailies in like my solitaire game, like that doesn't feel like I'm playing a game. You know, when I was going for bounties in Destiny, like that didn't feel like I was playing the game as much as I was like keeping up and like keeping things tidy. Like it felt more like brain cleaning, if that makes sense.
It still does to me. The main reason being I go for the dailies while going for the trophies. So like anytime I land right now, you know, maybe one of the dailies is get or do 100 damage with an SMG or a shotgun. And I will land and try to find an SMG or shotgun, do that daily. But also, since you can have 2 guns, I will always try and find an SMG or shotgun anyhow, because I need so many SMG or shotgun kills for a trophy. Or since I can have 2 guns, anytime I find a crossbow, I'm going to pick that up because I need crossbow kills. While the other weapon or whatever will be the one that is for the daily or, you know, whatever is needed. So it still does feel like a game because I'm doing it. I want to try and get the platinum in this. I think it potentially would be different if I already had all the trophies and one of the main hooks for me was just the dailies.
I kind of got burned out on Forza Horizon 5 because of I forget what it's called in that game, but essentially your dailies.
Oh gosh, yes. The seasons?
I was like so into, for a while, like when that game first came out, I was just into the story mode and like playing whatever races. And then eventually I got sucked into like trying to get all the points and getting like the weekly vehicles and stuff. And I felt like it was just pulling at me like a little too much. And so I pulled back from the game, and I do want to go back to it at some point, but I'm not a big fan of daily type stuff in general, to be honest with you.
I think it was called Seasons in Forza. Yeah, I guess it depends on the game for me, because PUBG, best examples are PUBG and Apex Legends. I'm going to play them anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
So like, even if it didn't have dailies, even if I had all the trophies, right now, that I would just pop in and play each day. I'd still do it, But the daily is like, all right, I'll just do this. Use 5 boosters. I'll end up doing that anyhow. So I guess like in games like that, or in another game I'm going to be talking about here in a moment, Dead by Daylight, the dailies get you in-game like currency. It's not in-game currency, it's more so like in-game, this is what you spend to level characters up, like experience almost. So like the dailies do that, so it's like, okay, if I go for the dailies, I'm just going to level up more. So that gives a little more reasoning to that. But if it was just like Forza Horizon, it's like, oh, okay, I enjoy this. I don't really feel like.
Yeah, I think it depends on the implementation of it too.
Yeah,
Like it depends on like how much they're really wanting you to play to be able to get certain items or things like that. I think that's what really bothered me with Forza was I felt like I had to spend every dying moment of every hour I was playing for the week doing all that stuff just so that I could get to what I wanted.
Doing what they wanted you to do before you got to do what you wanted to.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing because like PUBG has 3 dailies and 4 weeklies, and it's pretty much all stuff you're going to do anyhow. Maybe you have to go out of the way just a little bit, but it's all stuff you're going to do. And even same with Apex. And Apex and PUBG, you have a certain amount you can just change. So like, I don't really like this one, change it out. Or a cool thing Apex does now that has arenas and Battle Royale, when you want to change one of the dailies, it'll ask, do you want a Battle Royale one or an arena one?
Oh, that's interesting. So it kind of gives you a little bit of options.
Yeah, which is so like when they do that, it's fine. Like I'm even fine with ones that are like do so much damage with this kind of weapon. Like, all right, it's not overly a lot. It might take like 2, maybe 3 matches, but that's not bad. So, but the other game I've been playing, like I just said, is I started Dead by Daylight. And I'm really liking that game. I went in terrified to start playing it because I played 1 or 2 other kinds of games like that, and I was really bad at them. But I'm doing okay. I have a pretty good track record as Survivor right now. I haven't done too many Survivor matches, though. But I have a really good record as the killer. But
so this game's like almost Evolve-esque in a way, right? Like there's a killer and then there's
a killer and 4 survivors.
Okay.
And
I've never played it.
The main goal of the survivors is to get, I want to say off the top of my head, it's 4 generators running, 4 or 5. There's a number of generators around the map, and the goal is to get like 4 or 5 of them going, and that'll make it so, hey, the exit doors, you can now work at getting those open. And the killer's goal is simply that. Stop them. Most of the time, the whole idea is to put them on a hook, where if a survivor gets hooked 3 times, it's an automatic death. But as you hook them, they will their bar will start decreasing, and then the next time you hook them, it'll decrease faster. And yeah, that's the whole point of this game, and I'm absolutely loving my time with it. It has a lot of well-known killers and survivors. Like it's teamed with multiple different properties, we'll say. Like you can't get it right now, and I know they said they're trying to get it back. There was a Stranger Things one where the survivors were, I think, Steve and Nancy, and the killer was the Demogorgon.
Oh.
A couple of them that I picked up and have, like I have the Silent Hill one where the survivor is Cheryl Mason and the killer is Pyramid Head. I have the Resident Evil one with survivors Leon and Jill and the killer Nemesis. I got Ash from Evil Dead as one of the survivors. I have Ghostface as one of the killers.
They just had like Attack on Titan stuff too, right?
Yeah, they just did a crossover or a special event with that where that's not so much DLC, but it's like in-game costumes you buy. Okay. So like one survivor, and it's all for the stuff that came with the game. So like their own killers and survivors. And it's like, this character will have Mikasa's costume, or this one will have Levi's. And two of the killers, the Oni and I cannot remember the other one, each have a costume that's a Titan. And one is the female Titan, and the one I really want is like $15 for the costume. Still, I really want it. Is the armored Titan?
Yeah, I did see that one. I do want to play this game at some point, and I want to say I even have it. Didn't they give it out on PlayStation Plus at one point?
And it was just announced today that is coming August 18th on PlayStation Plus Extra.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And I will say that game does one strange thing to me. When I'm the killer, I will chase survivors around and talk to them in a southern accent. I'm gonna get you. I will talk to them in a southern accent. Like, they can't hear me or anything.
Elijah, too much Resident Evil 7. Too much Resident Evil 7.
I was just thinking it was the Pennsylvania coming out of him.
And
too much Louisiana, okay.
And I didn't even try to do this because I mainly when I play it, I stream it. And I didn't even try to do this, but every time I hook one of the survivors, I do say a hook pun. Thanks for hanging around. I'm so hung up on you. Just
no, say
every time.
He's doing more of an Athens accent where it's like molasses coming out of your mouth, right? That was right,
Thanks,
Andy? Yeah, I did it. It's funny. I worked at an ad agency that had a pretty big gaming client. I'm not going to say who, but we were editing a lot of videos of streamers and whatnot. And it was really cool seeing like the tree rings basically as time went on, like what all their streamers were playing for compilations and stuff like in February when I started versus like April after like a few months had passed and people had like clearly gotten sick of the games. And by the time I left, so much Dead by Daylight stuff, so much Dead by Daylight content from literally so everyone.
It's crazy how big that game is because it's been out for what, like 6 years, 5 years at this point? I mean, it's got to be at least 5 years.
I cannot remember. I want to say 2015 or 2016, maybe.
It was June 14th, 2016. So that would be 6 years.
Okay.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. But a game that old still, is so popular.
Still getting new content. They just announced and showed a trailer for the new Resident Evil DLC for it, where the killer is Wesker and the survivors are Rebecca and Ada. And like there's a Saw pack. There is a Halloween pack. There's a Friday the 13th pack. Like, this game has a lot of stuff, but it's so fun. Each killer has their own different special thing they can do. Like Ghostface can go invisible, and if somebody looks in his way for 2 or 3 seconds, then he like gets seen. But he can also, if you go right to the edge of something and press a button, he'll just kind of peek around the edge. And because of that, like, he can't be seen. And it's just really neat. I love the way it's set up, and that game is fun.
And then once his sprint runs out, in a Matthew Lillard voice, he'll go, "I'm feeling woozy here, man!" Just like in the movie.
I really need to see those movies.
You've never seen Scream?
No. I literally know the entire plot of the first one.
Jesus, man. Watch it. It's great. It's awesome. The first one's incredible. Second one's underrated. Third one is bad, but it's like Pixar movies where like even like a bad one is like, oh, it's bad compared to other movies, but other Scream movies, like other movies that you made, but like, no, it's better than a lot of other things. Austin, my guy.
George.
My bespectacled beau. What have you been playing?
Okay, so 2 things. I have kind of been in a gaming slump a little bit, but I've been playing some here and there. The main game I've spent my time with the past couple weeks is Death Stranding.
Yeah, buddy.
I started up the director's cut version because it's on PlayStation Plus Extra, and just kind of dove into it. And I'm still not super far in. I may be 5 or 6 hours. I'm still in chapter 2, so I'm still kind of in the early phase before people say it really opens up and gets really good. But I am thoroughly enjoying my time with this game this time around. And I picked it up the day it came out originally and tried it out. Got, maybe a little before where I'm at right now. And it just wasn't really vibing with me at that time, which was odd because, I'm such a big Kojima fan. I love his games. And I don't know, whenever it came out, it just wasn't really what I was feeling. But now, I don't know what it is, but I am just totally into this game. It's so chill, like it's fun to just kind of explore and walk around the environment. It's relaxing. It's the game I need right now, and I can't wait to dive more into it and finally figure out what's going on with these damn babies.
You
Here you go,
will
Elijah.
find out for sure.
Okay. So Elijah, you've beaten it, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, I
so you
actually beat it last month.
Cool. So you get answers, right? Like it's not just like some
For the most part,
ambiguous. Okay. All right. That's cool.
I'm not gonna say like the best answers, but for the most part, yeah.
Cool. Does it set up a sequel?
If I recall correctly, I think it just was open ended. Like it was
Okay.
one of those that could go either way.
Yeah. Cool. I'm excited to get through it more and play through it. My only concern is I'm probably never going to beat it because I understand it's like 50 hours long. So
Probably, yeah.
We'll see how far I get, but I'm hoping I make it there. The other game though that I wanted to spend more time talking about, still kind of briefly, is Stray, which Andie and I ended up beating it this week, and I talked about it. I guess it was 2 weeks ago. We did the last episode. I talked about it some then. I really enjoyed that game. It's beautiful. I mean, the fact that it's made by such a small indie team, and truthfully, it's one of the best looking PS5 games, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Graphically, it's extraordinarily impressive. The lighting is really good, and just the animations are just so well done. I mean, it feels AAA, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time with that game. I think it took us maybe about 5 hours to beat, so it's on the shorter side, which I appreciated. My only thing that I have to say that I was not a big fan of was the ending, which was, to me, extraordinarily abrupt. Like I'm not going to go into detail, obviously, for spoiler reasons, but it kind of feels like the story doesn't really come full circle. Like it, and I don't know what I was expecting with a game about a cat, but at the same time, like it doesn't really wrap up like the thread that it starts out on, and I wasn't a big fan of that. So that would be my only caveat. But overall, I thoroughly enjoyed that game, and I would recommend it to anybody.
I need to give it another shot.
Yeah, and I get that it's not for some people. Going in, I wasn't sure what I expected. I was expecting kind of more of a platformer type thing. So I can see how the more like puzzle adventure game style thing isn't for everybody.
I'm a cat person. I should like it.
So that's all I've been playing though, George.
I thought it was really pretty. Like I said, I only played like 2 hours of it probably. But it's really pretty. Like I love the art direction in it. Like all the buildings, all the lighting especially. The character design, like all that stuff I find fascinating. But like, man, I really thought this game was a platformer, and it is just not a platformer. It's just a bit, I don't want to say walking simulator because I think that term is really stupid, but like they're very much selling you on the world, not the idea that you're a cat, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
No, that's 100% true. It's more about the world that you're in than the fact that you're the cat. I mean, there are certain things like you've got the meow button, and you can, certain characters you can walk up to and like rub up against like a cat would and stuff like that. But for the most part, the game, the actual character of the game comes from the world itself and the world that you're in. And honestly, that's why I liked it. It's still not what I was expecting. I would agree with you. Like I was kind of hoping more for like just being a cat type stuff, but I ended up really loving the world that it puts you in. So
The inciting incident made me cry. That was like heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that one gets me.
Well, that felt like a Don Bluth movie, right? Like not like something as pretty as Disney, but just like way darker than Disney, right? Like Secret of Nim or
Yeah,
something from like that era, and
right,
that really caught me off guard, and that's what got me interested. That's why I played like another hour and a half, but then I was so sleepy I couldn't keep
right.
playing. Well, one game I have not been too sleepy to play, and it caught me by surprise. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. I
Love
got
it.
20 hours in this game over the past like week and a half, which honestly might not sound like a lot, but like the two of you, I have been in a gaming slump for like months. Where like the last game I really cared about was Deep Rock Galactic, and then the way Austin was talking about the dailies and whatnot from Forza, like that's how I started to feel about Deep Rock Galactic. Like started to feel more like a chore, and I was like kind of depressed in the early winter or late winter, I guess, because that's how years work. Um, and so I liked it just because it would distract me. But like besides that, I like barely played anything this year until Xenoblade. And guys, I'm playing it on casual mode. I don't understand the combat whatsoever. I know I need to do breaks. I know I need to do topples. I don't know how to set either of those things up with any sort of consistency. The UI is absolute trash. That makes no sense. I don't know what I'm supposed to be looking at half the time, and I don't give a rod egg about it. I'm having so much fun with this game. I love the characters. I love the world. I love how weird and wonky and Wii-like this thing is. But geez Louise, is playing this game hard, but is enjoying this game easy. What did you two think of Xenoblade?
Um, the game, the battle system in that game is so extraordinarily complicated, and I don't know if it's just because I am small-minded or what. But I do agree with you that like when I played that game and when I played 2, it's so confusing. But I love it. Like it's so good. Both of those games, I haven't played 3 obviously, but the something about the it needs to be explained better. And it has to be explained better.
It
I got
does.
like 40 hours into 3 and or into 2 and I finally started to understand it like a little bit. So
They need to mix up like the color
yeah,
coordination, I think.
yeah,
Like there's just so many layers and mechanics to it that I feel like genuinely stupid when I play this game. And like, hey, I've
yeah,
got like a college degree, I've got like a decent job, like I'm dating a lawyer. Like they're extremely smart and I convince them to date me. Like I'm not the dumbest person, but Jesus, dude, when I play this game, I feel like a toddler who's like accidentally reading a book on black holes. Like I just like
yeah,
don't have the language for it. And again, I don't care because everything else about this game is
yeah,
absolutely incredible. I never care about stories in games, but I am hooked in to Shulk. I'm so
yeah.
sad about my girl F. I'm not going to spoil anything. But geez Louise, and loving this game so much.
Xenoblade 1 is of the 2 that I've played, is the one that I've played the least. I think I maybe played 15 hours of it, so I didn't get super far in, but I really did like what I played. And I do have the definitive edition sitting on my shelf, sealed and just like ready to go at some point. So, um, yeah,
I don't really have any experience with. I played Xenoblade 2 for probably about 10 hours a long time ago, but I just do not remember much of what it was like. And I just don't know if I'll ever get to these games for a reason we'll be talking about shortly.
hmm I tried Xenoblade Chronicles X on Wii U. Like I told myself, I drunkenly bought the Wii U as like I think Austin and I talked about a few weeks ago, and I did it because of Earthbound. But like in the back of my head, I was like, oh, they showed a trailer for like Xenoblade Chronicles X. Like that game looks dope. That looks like Gundam the game. And I bought that game the day it came out, and I was so excited. I'm like, this is the most confusing, convoluted, dumbest thing ever. And then I like finally watched a video review of it, and they're like, yeah, at about 40 hours in, you start to unlock like the mechs you'll be piloting. I'm like, 40 hours? Like, why isn't this the game? Like, why isn't the robots the game? Like that, you kind of made it seem like that was the game.
dude.
Jesus.
And the frustrating thing about that, and I know that game is good, like it still got very good reviews, but I was kind of the same mindset with that. The really sad thing is that first trailer is so good,
hmm
and it makes that game just look like this epic, like Gundam masterpiece, and it's got that beautiful score by Hiroyuki Sawano, who is the same guy that composed Attack on Titan, and it's just so masterfully crafted, that trailer. And then you get to the game, and they're like, "Oh no, you can't. Sorry, guys.
You don't get to have
You
fun.
can't actually
you
do
don't-
any of this for 45 hours."
Yeah, you can have fun later, and you'll like it. Besides Xenoblade, I played the first set of tracks that dropped for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on Switch. I had never played Mario Kart DS. I will say that Waluigi's Pinball is like one of the greatest Mario Kart levels I've ever played.
Yeah.
Now that one's incredible.
I love that track.
Calamari Desert, they threw some monkey wrenches in there to differ it up from the N64 level, so I'm happy about that. I still think they should be embarrassed for every tour level they've brought over to Mario Kart 8. I think they had New York this time, and like, geez, that stuff is just flat and it sucks. And what's even worse is like immediately after the tour level to start off the first Grand Prix, there's a Super Mario circuit, like a Super Mario Kart circuit, which is like just as flat. And like that level is somehow better despite having like none of the backdrop of like the tour level. But they're both pretty boring, not gonna lie. But yeah, that's all I've been playing enough to talk about. I think really quickly, Elijah, I don't think you've seen the Nintendo Direct for Splatoon 3. No, you haven't. Okay. You want to hear Austin and I talk about it for like 4 minutes?
He just said absolutely he does. We can't
Okay,
hear you, Elijah.
I completely forgot I muted myself to take a drink. But
good.
yes, I do want to hear, because I didn't see it, but I am curious about it. I do want to play Splatoon soon.
Cool. All right. We've talked a lot on this podcast about like we're getting this day one, right? And like one of us will buy it and then the other one probably won't. And you know, we're not responsible for any resentment felt by any person on this podcast.
Yeah, and
me
we're
towards
not like
Austin.
naming who
Yeah.
did it, right? Like I'm just gonna edit out or what.
Yeah, we're not here to finger
like,
point at
or-
Austin. Yeah,
Who?
who does stuff like this? Yeah, you're right. Ever heard of him? But Splatoon 3, I think, will finally break the habit of asynchronous
Yes.
purchasing of
No,
games.
Splatoon is a day one no matter what for me. Like I don't even care what it reviews.
I don't even care that I'm going to a grand or a roller coaster theme park that weekend. I'm still getting it.
I'm gonna be gone that whole weekend, but yes, I'm getting it. Yes.
This trailer was awesome. This trailer was kind of like an intro, or not trailer. This direct was awesome. It was basically an intro to the world of Splatoon, both lore wise and then also just like mechanics wise. Like they basically broke down every game mode that you're going to see. They broke down the future plans for updates. They talked about why you're doing what you're doing. They talk about how you're doing it. They introduced a bunch of the weapons. They reassured old fans that beloved favorites are coming back. And that's all well and good. Like I think that was like a really good, basically extended trailer from Nintendo to really show off what's under the hood for this game. And it got me really excited. But what got me most excited is just the vibes of this. And I think we talked about it when it was first revealed. But like this just feels like a Dreamcast game made in 2022, which is why I'm so excited. It's got a really nice like breakcore electronic soundtrack that's just popping off in the background. It's got weird attitude vibes. Like these are squid people, but they feel like they could have just like skated off the set of Jet Set Radio. I am so excited. Austin, what did you think?
Yeah, I thought it looked fantastic. And admittedly, it looks frankly like more of the same. I mean, there are some new additions, but it's at the end of the day, it's more Splatoon. And so I get that this probably isn't going to excite everybody, but to me, I love the new additions. And like you said, they almost shifted the art style in a way. They're kind of matching this like almost post-apocalyptic thing that they're going for with like the story mode. And I love that, where you've got like an upside down Eiffel Tower that's like destroyed, and just interesting stuff like that going on. So I love what they've done with the art direction, and like you said too, with the score, you kind of got that Jet Set Radio-esque kind of music going on in the background, and it's I'm looking forward to it on that front. But honestly, what I'm most looking forward to is the story mode, and they showed a little bit of it in the direct, and I think the one thing people always forget about Splatoon, it's known as a multiplayer game, but the story modes in those games are fantastic. And they almost feel like, in a way, like spiritual successor to like Mario Galaxy's story mode, to me, is what I've always gotten. They're always extraordinarily creative and the ways it throws enemies at you and different ways that you explore in the story mode missions is just really innovative, and I'm really looking forward to playing that.
Me
So
too. I love the vibes off it, man. It feels like Y2K punk. Like it. I don't really know how to put my finger on it, but like it's like the way the Supreme Court like defines pornography. It's like I can't say what it is, but I know it when I see it. And like when I look at Splatoon, I'm like, look, I can't explain why this is cool. I just know this is like this just
yeah,
has the energy I'm looking for. So
I'm
very much
really
looking forward to that.
looking forward to the pre-release like beta weekend that they're doing, which I think is the 28th or the 29th of this month. It'll be open, like you don't even have to have purchased the game. It's kind of like a beta period, so I'm looking forward to playing that. I'm also just going to put this out there. You know, Splatoon typically has like your two like mascot characters that introduce the courses and stuff when they rotate. This time there are three, and one of them is like a stingray, and his name is Big Boy or Big Man or something, and he's wonderful. Like I just think he's fantastic. So I'm all down for that.
I might try to hunt down these amiibos, which I haven't gone amiibo shopping in a hot
Oh
sec.
yeah, those are a must for me. I've got
Yeah.
all the Splatoon ones except for Callie and Marie from the first game. So
All right. Well, that brings us to our main topic tonight. And for those who don't know, basically we have like what's called a Slack channel, which is basically like instant messaging or like a WhatsApp. Like it's really no different. It's just like a place where we can all text each other. And so we always talk about like, hey, what should we talk about? What should be the main topic of the show? And we're trying to make it so it's not just us talking about what we're playing, but try to have like actual thoughtful and interesting conversations about this hobby that we all love. And so this week's topic is the brainchild, the brain baby of Austin. So Austin, why don't you introduce it and kick us off?
yeah, so this kind of came to me playing through both Stray and Death Stranding. You know, one thing for me as I've gotten older, as I've kind of gotten more into my career, I don't have as much time to game. And you know, when I was younger, when I was maybe in my early 20s, I would spend a lot of time playing JRPGs and these extended, you know, really long games. Metal Gear Solid 5, I spent 350 hours on or something ridiculous. And so, you know, I was really used to playing games for an extended period. Final Fantasy 14, probably at least 500 hours I spent on that. And Stray kind of brought me back to this mindset of, okay, this game was 5 hours long. It was fantastic. It was a start and finish. The finish could have been better. And I just love that brief experience of, okay, I can play this over a span of 2 weeks, play it a little bit here and there, and finish it and feel accomplished. And then we've got Death Stranding, which, as I mentioned earlier, it's like my understanding is maybe 45 to 50 hours, which really isn't crazy long. But for me, that's pretty long. Like I typically, you know, maybe in a week play 5 to 6 hours of a video game in general. I typically don't spend much more than that per week, maybe 6 hours. And so Death Stranding is going to take me a really long time to beat. What's more interesting about this, though, George, is the fact that you've thrown in Xenoblade Chronicles into this conversation, which ups the ante because that game is like 120 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
I've looked it up on how long to beat. It's not supposed to be that long. The definitive edition really trims like an hour to 2.5 hours of content off the Wii version.
So
For
how long are we talking?
118.
Yeah.
Yeah, a gentleman's one in a dozen.
But my point being, I kind of wanted to talk about length as a topic. I mean, where do we stand with length of games? I think some people look at the length of a video game as value, which is interesting, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that necessarily. But you know, some people might say, okay, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is 150 hours, whereas Stray is 5 hours. One is $40, one is $60. Clearly, there's more value in one,
Mhm.
and I respect that. That's not really my viewpoint, but I respect that. So, just kind of some interesting stuff with length, and I just kind of wanted to broach the topic of length of video games and kind of whether a short game is good and how price potentially affects our opinions on length of a game.
You know, you were talking about Xenoblade, and this is the reason I said, like, as much as I know I would like the Xenoblade games, I'll probably never play them because between the 3 games and the DLC for 2, that's upwards of like 500 hours. I just can't do that. Like, I just can't. That's just way too long to be spending on 3 games for me. My ADHD wouldn't let me. Like, if that makes sense. I literally couldn't do it. I have Digimon Survive right now, and I'm like, all right, how long is this? And I looked it up, and it looks like it's roughly around 40 hours. I'm like, oh, it's so long. Because just right now, I'm not even gonna say like where I'm at in life or anything, but just me right now, I just don't know if I can do a game that long. Like last month, I think it was, I beat Death Stranding, or the month before. I don't know if I could do that right now. Just this month, right now, as I'm the way I'm gaming, I don't know if I can do a long game like that.
I hear ya. That's honestly, I look at howlongtobeat.com before I start any game, and I could be excited to start a game, but then once I see like that number, that's what like bums me out. And I just looked up Xenoblade Chronicles. The main story, 50 and a half hours, made an extra 77 and a half. Completion is 134. I really enjoy this game. I'm telling you right now, I'm not spending 134 hours on this game. Like, I'm just not going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like 55 hours gets me kind of excited. What bums me out about Xenoblade Chronicles is like the fact that like its length is artificial. Like, that's what bums me out with games. I don't mind spending a long time in a game, but it's like when you're purposely padding stuff out, when you're purposely like taking a long time to introduce stuff that's necessary, like that's when I get sort of discouraged, and that's what turns me off of your game.
That's fair. Yeah, no, I can understand that. Okay, we've talked about this before. Open world games. That's one of the main reasons I'm not big on open world games, is I feel like instead of you just doing the next mission, they say, all right, now drive or go to that next mission. I feel like that's just padding the game out, because it's like, okay, so I'm just going to spend 5 to 10 minutes to drive to this location just to actually play the game.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big reasons I'm not that into open world, because I feel like that is just padding the game.
And it's super weird too, because like on the other hand, that's like immersive storytelling, that's like world building, that's like showing you like how big the scale is. It's showing you what you're either fighting to protect or fighting to destroy, right? Like showing you the world that you're interacting with. Like, I totally see the value in that, but I've had that same frustration where it is like, I got here just to do a cutscene, and now I need to drive back to where I was to actually like do the level part, where it's just like, okay, why don't you just make the travel part of the cutscene and like figure out a way to sort of like better tie the story to the actual gameplay?
It just makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting, and I almost wonder in a way, like, I don't know, for me, I guess ideal game length, and I guess we can even kind of each go through with this. I mean, it depends on what kind of game it is, but I really appreciate the like 15 to 20 hour game.
Oh,
Once
Austin.
it starts getting past that, like, I really get into tricky spots.
Austin, I got a surprise for you. As soon as he suggested this, I came up with a list of 12 random games.
Look at
And
that.
I wanted to go through and ask you guys what your ideal length for this game in a game in this series would be.
Okay.
All right. I'm thinking this is like, let's say like main quest with like interesting side quests, right? Like if that's like applicable to the game. So like first up, I think this example would be, make it more clear, but like Pokemon. Like, I'm not counting like catching all available Pokemon in like the local decks, right? Like, I'm just talking about like the main story plus like some interesting stuff you can do.
I forget which one it was that I played last. I mean, I played a bit of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire and X and Y, and I want to say it was Y was only like 30 hours. Am I wrong saying that?
No, that feels right.
And that felt like about right to me. Like
30
25,
hours.
30 hours for one of those games. Back in the day when I was a kid, you know, I put like a couple hundred hours into Platinum, and I know that game is considerably longer, but honestly, when it comes to Pokemon, I appreciate like maybe 30 hours. Since it is an RPG, I get a little more length, but I'd say 30 hours for me is like ideal.
For
Okay.
me, I'd go like 20. I enjoy Pokemon, but I feel like I get burnt out on it so much faster.
Yeah.
I would go probably between you guys, like probably like 25. That said, I think like 40 is usually like my limit, unless they introduced a way to collect everything, like a way to get every dude like up to snuff. Like then I'm gonna be like, okay, like I want like a digital photo album of all these cool monsters. So yeah, I'm just gonna say 30 plus. Um, but again, like so much of like just the backtracking, like in the original Pokemon game, it wasn't that bad because it was like such a small world. But like when you finally get up to Viridian City, you go into the Mart, and they're like, "Hey, could you go back and bring this to Professor Oak?" It's like Jesus Christ. I know it's a Pokédex for me, but like if you could have just told me to pick up my Pokédex at Viridian City, so I could keep moving, like it's just like little things like that. Um. All right, so Final Fantasy.
Ooh. Oh, that's a tough one.
I would say like 35.
Yeah, I would put it about that time frame too. I don't know. I feel like that style of RPG you're gonna find. I don't know how many RPGs you have on here, George, but that's kind of my ideal for like a standard JRPG. Truthfully, would be like 30, 35 hours, and so I'd agree with 35 for Final Fantasy. I put like 90 into 15 to get the platinum, and again, this was like years ago when I had that kind of time, but these days would not do that again.
Are you guys at 35?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna actually go lower. I'm gonna say 20.
Ooh,
Like I want that one to be like
nice.
a short. I think if you trim some stuff out from the Final Fantasy games or stronger games, and granted, I haven't played nearly as many as you guys have, so I'm thinking like for 3 and 5 and most of 15. Like that's where I'm at. So I just think like a tighter story would be good. I think this is like one of the last RPGs, but I'm just curious what your takes are. Dragon Quest compared to Final Fantasy, because like in my head with the Dragon
Ooh,
Quest games that I've
good
played, I almost
lord.
want those to be longer than a Final Fantasy game, if that makes sense.
No.
I don't really have an answer for this one. I've never played an actual Dragon Quest game. So
Okay.
I'd
I've only
agree. Just like game wise, the way they're currently set up, I'd say maybe closer to 40, but at the same time, I don't know. I just that's like pushing it to like unreachable territory for me. So I'm think I'm still gonna stick with 35. I love Dragon Quest, but those games are so long.
Gotcha.
So long.
Resident Evil.
I'm gonna say a tight 12.
Okay.
Like
I'm gonna say
anywhere between 10 and 12 for me.
I'm gonna say 8. I like the 8 hour. I want to say when I played 2, my run was about 8 hours, and I really liked that length.
I don't really know Resident Evil well enough to comment, but I will say if a game asks me to replay it for multiple runs to unlock like alternate endings or whatnot, like I want that game to be like 5 to 6 hours, right? Like I want it to be that, and then I want it to be like at least 25% different each time I play it. And that sounds like a tall order to the devs, but just in for replaying a game. Call of Duty campaign.
Oh,
5. I'd
yeah,
say for me.
5. I'd say 5 for sure.
I would say 5 to 6. Let's see, Gears of War.
I'd
I
say
would put
about
it in a
6-ish.
yeah. I'd say 6, maybe a little, just a tad bit longer than a Call of Duty.
Oh man, yeah. I
I
would
think there's
say
enough
I would
story
say
in those
8.
games.
I would say 8 just because I think they do more interesting things. Like I think like Call of Duty is probably like more politically interesting, right? Because like how much
Yeah.
closer it is to our world. But like I
Mhm.
think because of that, Gears of War can get like more fantastical and do weirder stuff. Mario 3D platformer.
Maybe 8,
I
8 or
have no
9.
answer.
Okay.
Yeah. It depends on which one. I mean, I'm thinking about like Galaxy, and I feel like if that game was I don't know how long that game is, but 8 to 10 hours on that game would have been wonderful. While Odyssey, it's kind of a different setup. I'd say 8 would be ideal for me.
I'm gonna say 10. just because I think that is closer to what Galaxy was, and I remember beating that game in one night because I was so in love with it.
Yeah.
Like when I
Yeah.
first got it. I think Odyssey, it's really really good, but I think it might be a little too long too.
No, I agree with that.
They
That's
do
why
a
I
good
wasn't a big
job.
fan of it.
They do a good job of not making you complete everything in the level before moving on. Splinter Cell.
I'm gonna say like 8.
I've never actually played a Splinter Cell game, but yeah, I'd say for something like that, I'd kind of stick with the 8 to 10 hour range.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go with 8 also, just because it's supposed to feel like one movie, and it's like if I'm in a movie for too long, then I'm like, what the hell are we still doing here? A Telltale style game.
Oh, 5.
Okay,
Yeah, I
let me
think I
change
could do
this.
5 to 6.
Let me change this to an episode, a Telltale style episode.
Hour and a half, maybe.
Yeah, hour
Hour
and a
and a
half,
half.
2 hours.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with like an hour and a half tops. I think because yeah, like Game of Thrones. Did you guys play Game of Thrones?
That's one of the few I have not
I
played.
did play it.
Ah, see that stuff was way too long, man. That game. I think that game is what broke me for them. And then I like because I played Tales of the Borderlands and I was just like, oh, this is so much fun. I could play another one. And then I played Game of Thrones. I'm like, this sucks. Like this is
At least the end of episode 2 of Game of Thrones had a good song.
I don't
I don't remember
remember
what
the
it's called.
song.
I just remember I really liked the song to the point where I had it in my car.
Okay. Let's see. Sorry, I'm keeping stats for us. Grand Theft Auto game.
Oh God, 10 hours or less.
Yeah.
5 killed me because that game is like 25 hours long, and I hated that.
I think the thing for me really though is I haven't played a really played a GTA game in, let's see here, it's 2020, so like 2005, because I think I can't give a good answer because I played some of GTA 5, but I just think GTA 5 is a terrible game. Like I
Mm.
think the writing, the characters are all bad, so that even the like however many hours I spent there felt way too long. So I couldn't give a good
Yeah.
answer for a GTA I liked.
I just the length of that game drove me insane, and that's almost why I have to say I'm probably never going to play Red Dead Redemption 2 because I've heard that that game is even longer, and I just have no desire to play that kind of game for 25 hours going, mainlining through the story. That just
Mhm.
sounds like a nightmare
You
to
mean
me.
you don't want to spend 10 minutes searching 3 cabinets in a house?
No. No.
I'm gonna say 15 for GTA. I think GTA 5 would have been better if the world was like 2/3 as big as it was.
Yeah,
Like I
that's
understand they
true.
wanted to like really sell how far away like their version of Barstow or whatever was from LA, but like, dude, it was too far. It's just too far. Like I understand like you going for realism, but like don't make your stuff less fun for the sake of realism. Because like, what are we doing here? All right, 2 more games. Devil May Cry.
I'm going to say like 7 to 9.
Yeah, that's a good range. I would agree with that.
I've
I would agree.
never played a Devil May Cry game, but I'm just thinking like a action like beat 'em up type game, right? Like 3D.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I'm cool with that because like, how long was Lollipop Chainsaw? Like, I know that's not Devil May Cry, but like similar genres.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think like a game like that. Like, I'm really thinking about these like with hours where it's just like, okay, like I want to beat a Devil May Cry like game in like 2 to 3 sittings, right? Like,
Yeah. So Lollipop Chainsaw, How Long to Beat says main story is 6.5 hours, main plus extra 9.5.
okay, so right in that sweet spot. But like with
So yeah.
Pokemon, like I understand like, oh, I'm gonna be playing this for a while. So like I know when I buy that game, I'm like subscribed to doing it for a minute. Call of Duty, I want to beat that in 1 to 2 sittings.
Yeah.
Gears of War, I'm cool with like up to 5 sittings, especially if I'm like playing with a buddy. 3D Mario, like that's how I've been thinking about it, and basically like equating each sitting to like 2.5 to 3 hours. Final game, Elder Scrolls / Fallout.
Oh,
I
that one's
think I
kind of
would
tough.
still put it in like the 25-hour range.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I've never actually beaten any of those games because I just couldn't find myself sticking around long enough.
That it's really interesting, like thinking about it in hindsight, where it's like, oh, the main campaign, like the main quest line, is probably like 10 hours in Skyrim, right? And then there's like a whole bunch of different side quests that you can do, and it's like, oh, mage the mage school, like, oh, that's probably like 4 or 5 hours, and like, oh, the companions, like, oh, that's probably like 3 to 4, and so it's like that's how like it's sort of added up. So with a Elder Scrolls game, like, I want it to be 50 hours, but I want it to be like partitioned, if that makes sense, where it's like I want all these different weird corners and pockets of the world for me, so I'm gonna put 50. Oh, I can't wait to share this from the Twitter account with absolutely no context and just make people like guess what we're talking about
I love
until
it.
this episode comes out.
I love it.
That's all I got. Any closing thoughts on game length?
I I think for me, like you said, game length, there is no ideal game length for games. It's the type of game and what you enjoy. So I could think one type of game, the ideal length is 5 hours. And Austin, who loves that game type, could think the ideal length is 20 hours. And neither of us are wrong because it's just our opinion on it and it's our take on it. So game length is always going to be subjective, but it's totally fair to have that sweet spot of what you want out of something.
Yeah. I mean, it's totally subjective. I think the one last thing I would kind of pose to you guys that I kind of touched on earlier. I mean, do you feel like game length impacts the value of a game at all as far as like the monetary value? Because for
I
me, it doesn't. I don't really care.
I was gonna say for me, not really, because I mean, first off, you're talking to someone who would buy all of the Call of Duties the day they came out just to play the campaign, and that was it.
Hmm.
But the big thing is, I won't judge the value on the length. I judge it on how I feel by the time I'm done. So, like, even if I don't beat a game, if I feel like I've gotten my value out of it, I'm good with that. So, uh, I can understand people judging based on length, but you're that's also not basing on the like what the game is, like what
Yeah.
you got out of a game. Because okay, think of God of War, 2018 God of War.
Right.
There could be another game that's the same length, but plays like I don't know, what's that Life of Black Tiger that was rated like one of the worst games ever? It could be the same length, but obviously one of those had a lot more time, heart, everything put into it. I think in the end you can value a game based on length, but there's so much more to value a game based
Yeah.
on.
Frankly, I think that's just people online trying to figure out anything to like troll about. Like, you'll constantly
Mhm.
see, like, I remember when the Quarry came out, I saw so many comments on Twitter that were like, this game is $70 and it's only X amount of hours. I don't know how long it is, maybe 6 hours.
I think it took me like 8 to 9.
Yeah. And, even that, there were just so many people that I saw saying, okay, how could a game of this length be worth $70? And I'm like, well, it's all subjective. I mean, if you think the
Mhm.
game's good, then to you it's worth $70.
Yeah, like, I personally,
So,
I was completely okay by the
yeah.
time I finished, I'm like, "I'm okay with I paid $70 for this, I loved this
Right.
game."
I mean, in that same vein, are you going to pay $150 for Xenoblade because it's long? Like, no, probably not.
Just
So,
just because you can make 100-hour game doesn't mean you should, right?
yeah,
Like
I do agree with that.
I work in advertising, and like honestly, like one of the most like iconic headlines of all time is "Got Milk." Like that's 2 letters. Like obviously they could have written like a 15-word headline, but like they didn't have to. They figured out how to do it with two, and so like I'm not gonna begrudge them for doing it in two. I'm not gonna begrudge Stray. It's like but it's $30, but it's only like 5 hours. It's like, yeah, dude, they figured out how to tell like a complete story from start to finish in 5 hours. Like it's not that like Square needs to feel bad for taking 120 to do that with Dragon Quest 11 or whatever. It's just like choices, and it's like what the story they feel deserves or whatever. uh yeah, like I think this conversation, again, super arbitrary, but I think it's fun to like go through like the different game titles and be like, what's your ideal length for figuring this out? Because I do think it is just like, how much time do I want to spend like on Street Fighter? I realize now I should have listed a fighting game, right, where it's like the campaign, like how,
Mhm.
because I used to like play like Clay Fighter 63 and third Mortal Kombat 4. Like I'm just thinking, like I was really into fighting games on like late N64 era, early PS2 era, and man, some of those campaigns were either like 15 to 25 minutes or like 3 hours long, and like
Mhm.
just being so used to one made me like adverse to the other. Uh, yeah, just make your game exactly how long it needs to be.
Yeah.
You're the game developer. I'm not. I trust you. Like I'm not gonna yell at a chef about like how to cook something medium rare. I'm gonna trust the chef to cook it medium rare.
And like just because like you can put the same length into two games and both of them may be good games, there is a different way to value them, because it made me think of, if I were to put 40 hours into Xenoblade, takes like 120 to beat, and I feel like I've barely gotten anywhere in it. I'm not going to feel like I've gotten my value out of that if it's like I've done so much but I feel like I've done so little.
Right.
But if I put 40 hours into what's pretty much beating, or that's what, in just under 40 hours I beat Final Fantasy VII Remake. I completely got my value out of that because I had a fantastic full experience, and at the end of the day, I was satisfied. That same 40 hours, I wouldn't feel satisfied in Xenoblade.
Yeah. We'll say the one thing, and this is the last thing I'm going to say. You touched on earlier, I forget, it might have been you, George. I can't remember who it was, but somebody mentioned about how, and this is something I see, and it depends on the game, but it's usually in RPGs where, you've got a 100-hour game. Typically, your tutorial section is like 10 of those hours. And that like really can drag a game down for me. If it's like a really long game and the first, for me, 2 weeks of playing are tutorial, at that point, I'm probably not going to continue.
If you need 10 hours to explain your game, like you're really bad at explaining your game. Like that's why I stopped playing Tales of Arise. Like I was so excited for that game because Elijah, I think you were talking about it. I know Seth was talking about it.
Yeah.
And I was really looking forward to it when it was coming out. Just because it looked like such like a fun, energetic game. And then I got it. I was just like, Jesus, man, like this intro was just dragging. And I was like literally dozing off while I was playing it. So that's like another one of those like, well, someday games. One thing that is interesting though is Xenoblade Definitive Edition. I probably like JRPGs the most out of anyone in the group now, just from playing it for 20 hours. So I'm really excited to really explore this genre that you guys just don't appreciate.
Yeah,
It's exciting.
Yep.
that is true. Who cares about
I did well.
JRPGs?
I was. It was one of those things where I'm just like, okay, I need to like really re-examine stuff because like it was making me curious. Like there was the first, I think 3 Dragon Quest games were on sale for.
Yeah.
I got all 3 of them for $10 like on Switch last week, and they're like the remasters of like 1 through 3. So like I was just like, oh shoot, like that's really cool. I'm glad I can check those out. And then like I looked over at my GameCube. I'm like, is it Twin Snake 30? Like, is it time for me to like go back and like actually try this? So like the fact that I'm enjoying this so much after like having tried it 10 years ago on Wii and disliking it, I'm like, okay, what else was I wrong about? So that's something you guys can all look forward to listening to the podcast. But I think that about wraps us up. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at frameskippod. You can hit us up with questions, shoot us DMs. We will follow you back if there's something you want to share privately. We can do that too. You can follow Austin on Twitter at Austin J Eller, right?
Yes.
Okay. I was like, because I always want to say Austin Jeller, but I'm like, no, that seems like insulting to the man's
Mario
name.
Kart Wii 140.
I wish. Cart with a C, baby. You can find Elijah on Twitter at Loco Lizardman. That's where you can also find him on Twitch, where you're going to miss it because this episode is being recorded on a Wednesday and born on a Friday, but Thursday, his birthday. So reach out, say happy birthday to one of our favorite hosts, if not our actual favorite host, Elijah. And check out his streams over there on Twitch. You can follow me at PurpleBird616, which is also the account I do for a comic book show. Tonight, I'm recording a podcast all about Ang Lee's 2003 hit film, Hulk. I'm very excited. This Friday, you can look
Great
forward
movie.
to... underrated. Like, rewatching it, underrated movie. That movie's great. But this Friday, the day you're hearing this, the day this podcast is named, Austin and I talk about Young Avengers. Very excited to finally get that out there. Feeling comfortable. I've got like a little bank of episodes, so I'm not stressed out about like recording on a Wednesday, editing on a Thursday, publishing on a Friday. Very excited. And I actually just confirmed a really cool guest is coming up. A super professional lady who I cannot wait to interview. I think that about wraps us up. Elijah, give us one last word to live by.
Chartreuse.
Chartreuse, baby. You heard it here. Check you next week.